people getting powered up, and some people are going to be quite a while. But we can report that as of noon today, we're down to 718,559 customers. That means homes and businesses. That's a lot more than 718,000 people who are still without power. But that's down from 1.1 million at the peak. And so we're thankful for that. And we are looking forward to having power restored to as many people as possible, as soon as possible. President Ricks mentioned this a while ago, generator safety. I'm going to talk about confirmed deaths in just a moment, but I want to remind people that in storms like this, typically it isn't the direct impact of the storm that kills the most people. It's post-storm activities. And one of those has to do with the use of generators. If you've got a generator that you're using, please make sure that it's at least 20 feet from your residence. It's in a well-ventilated area. It is not in a crawl space, a garage, certainly not in the house with you, but really not even under a window or a door or a vent. This is tasteless, it is odorless, and you don't know it's happening until it's too late. And really sad, what happens a lot of times is people turn a generator on in order to get cool enough to go to sleep. A family will go to sleep, and sometimes they don't wake up. So please be very careful. And then we also learned this morning that there have been some incidents where professionally installed home generators, those that are there year-round, are operating too close to the house, particularly too close to a window or a vent, and they've caused some people to be sick too. So please, just because it's not a portable generator, make sure that you're being safe with your generators. Very sadly, we are reporting 12 storm-related deaths at this point. It does include 4 deaths related to carbon monoxide poisoning from generators. As of 7:30 this morning, there were 61 weather-related closures, but as of a few minutes ago, there are 60. So we are making progress. They're working extremely hard, and I do want to thank the DOTD crewmen who've been working so hard to get debris off roadways, and that's happening at the local level. The National Guard is particularly with their engineering units, or have done a lot of route clearance as well. But we still have issues around the state with debris, and sometimes a roadway is open, but the shoulder may have debris on it. So please slow down, be very careful, be patient, and always check 511la.org before you leave your home so you know whether it's safe to go where you're trying to get to and whether you need to have a different route to get you there. The report I got this morning at the UCG meeting is that we have 3,246 individuals in shelters across the state, and there are 28 shelters in operation. If you have been staying at home and you realize that that's just not tenable, the home is damaged too much, you don't have electricity yet, you don't have water, some combination of that, and you want to get to a shelter, please call 211, or you can text LA Shelter to 898-211, and we will make sheltering available to you. For disaster food assistance, the DSNAP request is in process. I'm encouraging residents to pre-register for DSNAP so that when it is approved, you're going to be able to access those benefits quicker. You text LA DSNAP to 898-211. And I want to remind you that it's just not time to activate DSNAP because we have to have a threshold of stores, grocery stores that are open in your area before we're allowed to send you these benefits. And the benefits, quite frankly, don't do you any good until we have stores where you can use those cards. Evacuee reunification. DCFS will be launching Connect. It's a way for families to locate loved ones who evacuated from Hurricane Ida to a state shelter. That will be done by the end of the day today. Families can call 225-342-2727, or you can go to dcfs.la.gov/form/DCFS-connect. That's a lot to remember. Call 225-342-2727. But we're going to try to get you connected with your loved ones. Something I really didn't want to have to cover this closely to the storm that just passed is the potential for additional severe weather. We are tracking tropical weather system. We were briefed by the National Weather Service this morning. There is a system that's in the Bay of Campeche, and it is moving into the Central Gulf, and it's going to come close to Louisiana. Now, at this point, I'm not trying to be an alarmist. They're not necessarily predicting that it's going to strengthen into a hurricane, but they obviously cannot rule that out either. And so this bears careful monitoring over the next several days. But even if it visits our area as a tropical storm, we're in no condition to receive that much rainfall. And it could happen by the end of the week. So we want everybody to do what you can, and we're certainly going to be helping to get you in the best possible position to weather this storm by the end of the week. So pay attention to the National Weather Service, to local weather services as well, and to your local officials always, about whether it's time for you to come back home if you've been evacuated, about the curfews that you need to adhere to, and everything else that local officials tell you. Knowing how to contact your Office of Emergency Preparedness is very important. And if it's not this storm system, there certainly could be another at some point in the future. I will remind you that in the neighborhood of about 368 days, we've had 5 hurricanes make landfall in Louisiana. 4 of those were last year. Now, while we don't want any more, I don't think we get a vote. And so we have to be ready on that. To conclude, and before I take your questions, I know that this is a difficult situation for practically everybody in Southeast Louisiana. I know that in many cases, patience is wearing thin. People are hot and they're tired. They don't like waiting in line, and I get it. I assure you, we are doing, your local government is doing, the private sector, the nonprofit community, our faith-based community. We're all doing everything that we possibly can to speed relief to you. I'm asking you to be patient. I'm asking you to be good neighbors to one another. And I know that you will be. You always are. Louisianans are nothing if not faithful and resilient and good and decent and compassionate. And this is when it's needed the most. If you need to talk to someone because you're just emotionally drained, there are several hotlines available, and they're available around the clock, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There's the Keep Calm line at 1-866-310-7977. And then we have the Behavioral Health Recovery Outreach line, 1-833-333-1132. As always, check on your neighbors, especially if they're elderly or have special needs. Make sure you and your family are in the best possible position, and make sure that you lift up everyone in prayer that we will get through this sooner and in better shape than we can even imagine today. And with that, I will take a few questions. Yes, sir.
Forgive me if I don't pronounce the name right, but the social block grants that you get from the federal DHS.
Social Service Block Grant.
Did you get any assurances from the president as to whether he will get these for the first time since Katrina?
Well, I had an opportunity yesterday to discuss this with the president. I let him know it's not a customary feature of disaster recovery because we haven't received it since Katrina, but I assured him it was extremely important in this case, principally because of what I just told you. This is the 5th hurricane to hit our state in just a few days over a year. We've had a winter storm, a flood, and all of this during the course of a pandemic. And quite frankly, it's more than a lot of people can bear. If you're a healthcare provider, you have been stressed beyond belief for a year and a half. You have zipped more body bags in that year and a half than most people will throughout the course of a career. You know, I gave you the number of deaths from the storm. I think we're at 12, right? In the last 7 days, we've lost 350 people to COVID. This is a tough time. And so, yes, I did ask for the Social Services Block Grant. I stressed how important that is to make mental health services, behavioral health services more available, to make sure that you strengthen the foster care system and so forth, because all of these systems really get stressed tremendously when you have these disasters. And these programs serve the most vulnerable people in our state. And so it is important that we make sure that we're doing all we can, and that is why I requested that he assured me he understood the need for it. Of course, it takes Congress and the President working together to make sure that that's in an appropriation instrument that I hope comes much sooner than later. And I stress the importance not just of getting the relief that we're asking for, but getting it in a very timely fashion. Yes, sir.
Governor, can you tell us about this possible upcoming storm, how you're preparing for it, and how that could impact our current restoration?
Well, first of all, we've been speeding relief as much as we possibly can. And the importance of continuing to do that and getting even better if we're able to do that is underscored by the threat looming, whether it is this storm or some future storm. One of the things that I can tell you is, and we actually planned this before we knew anything about this particular weather system, is we are going to have a complete exercise at GOSAP about how do we respond as a state, working with our federal partners, working with all of our locals, to another hurricane while we are in our current posture, still responding to, not yet recovering from, but just responding to the immediate aftermath of Hurricane Ida. And let me tell you, that's almost more than you can contemplate, because every emergency support function, and there are 17 of them in Louisiana, every one of them has to be executed differently. So you can't take your playbook that you normally use and put it on the desk in front of you and say, okay, this is what we're going to do. Because your people are no longer where they would have been otherwise. Your assets are no longer where they would have been otherwise. You already have certain hospitals that have been damaged and others at complete capacity. You're already housing people at special needs shelters. Do you have to evacuate those people in advance of the storm? You know, how do you, assuming it strikes another part of the state, how do you staff up the shelters that you need there? Where do you get all of the medical personnel for those hospitals and those clinics? And how do you do all this and continue to test for COVID and do the monoclonal antibody infusions and all? My head's getting painful just thinking about it. But I asked Livingston Parish today to undertake this same exercise because you know, it's more than a theoretical possibility. It happened to us last year, and it could happen to us again this year. We will be as ready as we can be. And I have no doubt our federal partners are leaning forward with us. But I am praying we don't have to do that. And I'm asking everybody else to make the same prayer. Any other questions? Yes, sir. You can get two.
Okay. Do we need to strengthen the infrastructure for the electrical system in the state?
Well, first of all, I think electrical infrastructure needs to be strengthened as a general matter everywhere. Certainly in this state. It is hard for me to imagine that we will ever have an electrical infrastructure or other types of infrastructure as well that can withstand a storm of this severity without any disruptions. But we know we can minimize those disruptions. But it's going to take a big investment. And it's an investment that over time will certainly pay for itself, especially when you consider that not just the severity of these weather events, but the frequency of severe weather events is increasing, it seems like every single year. And it's one of the things we talked about with the president extensively, and people have talked to him about this at every stop yesterday. And, you know, for example, there is an infrastructure bill that the Senate passed. It's in the House of Representatives in Congress now, and there's an awful lot of money there that can improve infrastructure, including the electrical grid. You know, where possible in South Louisiana, I do think that we ought to be underground. I mean, we've seen towers collapse. We had the demolition on the tower that crossed the Mississippi River last night because that actually closed the Mississippi River for a week. I mean, we can do better, but it's going to take an investment, and it's going to take a concerted effort. And so, yeah, we need to improve our infrastructure. We can't continue to build things back to the current standard. If the current standard were enough, we wouldn't have lost them, right? We wouldn't have lost the things that went out with this storm. And we know how to do that. Our building codes, you can go in any community that's been devastated by the storm, and you'll see buildings and homes that made it relatively unscathed, and then next door is one that's totally destroyed. and it was the materials and the codes. You can take that lesson learned and you can extend it all across the infrastructure that serves us in common. But you can't do it without an investment. And so we already do make investments. And much of the federal money that comes down is going to require a state match if you want to avail yourself of it. So there is no way to participate in the federal programs to enhance our infrastructure if we're not also making that investment. So the short answer to your question is yes.
All right.
Look, I want to thank all of you for continuing to cover this. We've got a long way to go. This is absolutely going to be a marathon, but you know that's one step at a time. And every day we're going to try to put more people's lives in a better place than where it was when they woke up that morning. I'm confident that we are doing that, and I do ask people to be patient. Let's help one another, and let's lift one another up in prayer. And we're going to get through this. Thank you all, and God bless.
How did your personal house make out?
Louisiana Governor Bel Edwards saying that the state has a long way to go when it comes to recovery efforts following Hurricane Ida. You're streaming live now from Fox. We'll return right after this.